Hey everyone. So, I'm sitting here today because something happened. Something that completely blindsided me, turned my world upside down, and honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. You think you know someone, right? You build a life together, you share your deepest secrets, your hopes, your fears, you trust them implicitly. That's what I thought I had with Sarah. We'd been together for 5 years. 5 years of laughter, challenges, planning a future. We weren't perfect. No couple is, but I genuinely believed we were solid. Rock solid. But the last few months, looking back now, the signs were there, weren't they? Subtle little shifts. A slight distance I couldn't quite put my finger on. More late nights supposedly, catching up on work. Her phone angled away just a little too often. I brushed it off. Told myself I was being insecure, paranoid even. You want to believe the best of the person you love, don't you? You need to. But then came that Tuesday afternoon. It was just a normal day. I got home from work a bit early. Sarah was out meeting a friend, she said. I decided to do a bit of tidying up in the bedroom. You know, put away laundry, clear the clutter. Our bedroom. Our sanctuary. The place where we were supposed to be completely open, completely vulnerable with each other. And that's when I saw it. Tucked away, almost hidden, deep inside her side of the closet, underneath a pile of sweaters I hadn't seen her wear in ages. It wasn't just dropped there. It felt deliberately concealed. My heart started doing this weird thumping thing in my chest, like it knew something was wrong before my brain even caught up. I reached in, my fingers closing around a small, hard object. A box. A small, velvet jewelry box. Not one I recognized. Not one I'd ever given her. My breath hitched. My hands were actually trembling as I pulled it out. It felt heavy, expensive. I hesitated for a moment. A voice in my head screamed, "Don't open it. Put it back. Ignorance is bliss." But another, louder voice, the one fueled by that gnawing unease I'd been suppressing for months, urged me on. I had to know. I slowly lifted the lid. And there it was. Nestled inside on the little cushion, a ring. But not just any ring. It was stunning, intricate, a diamond that caught the light in a way that screamed this cost a fortune. It wasn't her style at all. Sarah liked simple, understated things. This was ostentatious, flashy, and most importantly, it absolutely, definitively, was not for me. My blood ran cold. Seriously, I felt this icy chill spread through my entire body. Who was this ring from? Why was it hidden? Was it a gift she'd bought for someone else? Maybe her sister? Her mom? But why hide it in our closet? Why the secrecy? My mind raced, desperately trying to find an innocent explanation. Any explanation that didn't involve the gut-wrenching possibility forming in the pit of my stomach. Maybe she found it. Maybe she was holding it for a friend who was planning a proposal. It sounded weak, even to me. The way it was hidden felt clandestine. Guilty. I sank down onto the edge of the bed, the open box heavy in my hand, the diamond mocking me with its brilliance. Suddenly, all those little inconsistencies, those moments of distance, the guarded phone calls, the vague excuses, they weren't just random occurrences anymore. They started clicking into place, forming a terrifying picture I didn't want to see. Was she? No. I couldn't even think it. Not Sarah. Not my Sarah. We were supposed to be planning our own future, talking about houses, maybe even kids down the line. How could this fit into that picture? I felt sick. Physically ill. The room started to spin slightly. This ring wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It felt like a grenade, ticking silently in the heart of our relationship, ready to blow everything apart. I thought about her excuses for being late. The work dinners that seemed to happen more frequently. The sudden need for space she'd mentioned a few weeks back, which I'd attributed to stress. Was it all a lie? Had I been living in a complete fantasy while she was what? Receiving expensive gifts from someone else? The betrayal felt visceral, like a physical punch to the gut. The trust one thought was the bedrock of our relationship suddenly felt like quicksand. How long had this been going on? Who was he? Did our friends know? Was I the last one to find out? The clueless boyfriend living in blissful ignorance? The questions swirled, each one more painful than the last. I felt a surge of anger, hot and fierce, mixing with the cold dread. How dare she? How dare she bring this symbol of whatever it was into our home, into our shared space? I closed the box with a snap, the sound echoing loudly in the quiet room. I needed answers. I couldn't just put it back and pretend I hadn't seen it. This wasn't something you could ignore. This wasn't a small disagreement or a misunderstanding. This felt monumental. This felt like a fundamental breach of everything we were supposed to stand for. I stood up, my legs shaky, the ring box clutched tightly in my fist. I walked over to the window, looking out at the street below, seeing nothing. My mind was a whirlwind of hurt, confusion, and rage. What was I going to do? Confront her the moment she walked through the door? Demand an explanation? Part of me wanted to scream, to rage, to throw the damned ring across the room. Another part, the part that still desperately clung to the image of the woman I loved, wanted to believe there was a logical, innocent explanation. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions. Maybe my insecurity was getting the better of me. But the way it was hidden, that detail kept snagging in my mind. People don't hide gifts for their mother under a pile of old sweaters in their partner's shared closet. I knew I had to talk to her. But how? How do you even start that conversation? Hey honey, whose insanely expensive diamond ring did I just find hidden in your closet? It sounded insane. But the alternative, saying nothing, letting this poison fester between us, was unthinkable. The trust was already fractured, maybe irrevocably. Finding this ring hadn't broken it. It had just revealed the cracks that were already there, hidden beneath the surface. I paced the room, the silence pressing in on me. Every tick of the clock seemed amplified, counting down the minutes until she returned. What would her face look like when I showed it to her? Would she crumble? Would she lie? Would she get angry? I braced myself. This conversation, however it went, was going to change everything. The comfortable, predictable life I thought I had was already gone, shattered by the discovery of this single, glittering object. Little did I know, the explanation she would eventually give, the full story behind that ring. It was going to be far more shocking, far more devastating than anything my reeling mind could even begin to imagine right now. The floor felt like it had dropped out from under me, and I had no idea how far I was about to fall. The only thing I knew for sure was that the Sarah I thought I knew, the relationship I thought I had, might never exist again after tonight. The weight was agonizing. So, there I was, pacing the bedroom like a caged animal, the ring box feeling like it was burning a hole in my hand. Every car that drove past on the street made my heart leap into my throat. Was it her? What was I going to say? How was I going to start? The minutes crawled by like hours. Then, finally, I heard her key in the lock. The familiar sound suddenly filled me with a mixture of dread and a desperate need for answers. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves, and walked out of the bedroom just as she stepped inside, shrugging off her coat, a bright, slightly forced smile on her face. "Hey, you're home early," she said, her voice cheerful. Too cheerful? Or was I just reading into everything now? She came towards me for a kiss, but I instinctively took half a step back. Her smile faltered slightly. "Everything okay?" My voice came out low, tight. "We need to talk, Sarah." The color drained from her face. She knew. Instantly. Maybe it was the tone of my voice. Maybe it was the look in my eyes. Maybe she'd sensed something was off the moment she walked in. What is it?" she stammered, her gaze darting around nervously. I didn't say anything. I just slowly opened my hand, revealing the velvet box. Her eyes locked onto it and widened in sheer panic. For a split second, her mask of composure completely disintegrated. It was a look of pure, unadulterated fear. And in that moment, any lingering hope I had for an innocent explanation vanished. "What is this, Sarah?" I asked again, my voice dangerously quiet. She swallowed hard, looking anywhere but at me or the box. I don't know what you're talking about." The lie was so blatant, so pathetic, it was almost insulting. "Don't insult my intelligence, Sarah," I said, the anger starting to bubble beneath the surface. "I found it hidden in your closet." "Whose is it? And why was it hidden?" Tears started welling up in her eyes. The defensive walls crumbled. "Alex, please, it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I pressed, stepping closer. "Because right now, I'm thinking the absolute worst. I'm thinking that the woman I love, the woman I plan to spend my life with, has been lying to me. That she's been seeing someone else. Someone who buys her expensive diamond rings and tells her to hide them from me. Am I close?" The tears spilled over, streaming down her cheeks. She sank onto the edge of the sofa, burying her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. It was a gut-wrenching sight, and a part of me, the part that still loved her desperately, wanted to go to her, to comfort her. But the betrayal was too raw, too deep. "Please, Alex, you have to let me explain, she choked out between sobs. It, it was a mistake. A stupid, terrible mistake. And then it came out. The partial confession. Yes, the ring was from another man. Someone from her work. He'd been pursuing her for months, she claimed. She felt lonely, stressed, confused. She said it only happened a few times, that it meant nothing, that it was over weeks ago. She swore she loved me, only me, and that she was terrified of losing me. The ring? He'd given it to her as a gesture, she said vaguely, and she'd panicked. She didn't know what to do with it, so she hid it, planning to give it back. Her words tumbled out in a rush, a torrent of apologies, excuses, and pleas for forgiveness. She painted herself as lost, vulnerable, making a terrible error in judgment but ultimately devoted to me. She begged me to understand, to forgive her, not to throw away 5 years because of one stupid mistake. I just stood there, numb. Listening to her confession felt like being hit by wave after wave. Part of me felt vindicated. I wasn't crazy. My gut had been right. But mostly, I just felt this profound, crushing sadness. The image of us, our future, was dissolving right before my eyes. A mistake? Hiding an expensive ring from another man wasn't just a mistake. It was a calculated series of choices. Lies. Deception. Right under my nose. In our home. Over. I asked quietly, my voice hoarse. You said it's over? Yes. Yes, completely, she insisted, looking up at me, her eyes red-rimmed and desperate. I realized what I was risking, Alex. I realized it was you I wanted. Only you. Please, believe me. Did I believe her? I wanted to. God, I wanted to believe her more than anything. But something still felt off. The story felt rehearsed, incomplete. The sheer panic in her eyes when I first showed her the box, it didn't match the "it was a mistake" and "it's over" narrative. And the ring itself, it wasn't just a gesture. It looked serious. Expensive serious. I need some space, Sarah, I said finally, the words feeling heavy and inadequate. I need to think. No. Alex, please don't leave, she cried, reaching for me. But I pulled away. I can't be here right now, I said, my voice breaking slightly despite myself. I can't. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and walked out the door, leaving her sobbing on the sofa. The sound followed me down the hallway, tearing at me. I ended up crashing at my friend Mark's place. The next few days were a blur of sleepless nights, endless replays of the conversation, and a constant, aching pain in my chest. Sarah bombarded me with calls, texts, voicemails, apologies, declarations of love, pleas for another chance. She sounded genuinely distraught. Mark told me I was being too harsh, that everyone makes mistakes, that maybe she deserved a second chance. And I wavered. Maybe I was overreacting? Maybe love meant forgiveness, even for something like this? Part of me missed her terribly. Missed our life. Was I really ready to throw it all away? I started to consider talking to her again, maybe trying couples therapy. But that nagging feeling, that sense of incompleteness, wouldn't leave me alone. The ring. It kept coming back to the ring. Why that specific, expensive ring? It didn't feel like a casual gesture from a fleeting affair. So, against my better judgment, maybe fueled by a need for self-preservation or just plain morbid curiosity, I did something I never thought I'd do. I decided to do some digging. It started small, just checking our shared phone bill details online. Lots of calls and texts to one particular number I didn't recognize, especially late at night, during times she claimed to be working late. Then, feeling increasingly suspicious, I logged into our shared credit card account. And there it was. A charge from a few weeks ago. A very large charge. At a high-end jeweler downtown. A charge Sarah had vaguely explained away as buying some investment pieces. Investment pieces? Or one specific, diamond-encrusted investment piece? My heart pounded. This wasn't adding up. If the affair was over weeks ago, why was this charge so recent? And why would she be buying the ring? Unless the story she told me was completely fabricated. Unless the ring wasn't a gift to her, but something else entirely. My mind raced. Who was this guy from work? I scrolled through her social media friends list, my stomach twisting into knots. And then I saw him. A guy I vaguely recognized from a work party she dragged me to months ago. Let's call him David. His profile was public. And his recent posts? Full of gushing comments about finding the one, about a new chapter. And then, the kicker. A picture posted just 3 days ago. Of his hand, intertwined with a woman's hand. And on her finger? An identical diamond ring. But the hand wasn't Sarah's. The blood drained from my face. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It wasn't her ring from him. It looked like he had just gotten engaged to someone else. So what the hell was the ring I found doing hidden in our closet? My mind struggled to connect the dots. Was Sarah involved with David, who was also engaged to someone else? Was she the other woman in his relationship too? Or was the story even more tangled? Maybe the ring I found wasn't from David at all? Maybe there was another man? The confusion was overwhelming, but one thing became chillingly clear. Sarah hadn't just lied about the affair being over. She had lied about everything. The story she fed me was a complete fabrication, designed to minimize the damage, to manipulate me into forgiveness. The truth, whatever it was far darker, far more complex, and far more devastating than a simple mistake. The ring wasn't just a symbol of her infidelity. It was a clue to a much larger web of deceit. And the fact that David, the supposed source of the ring according to her initial story, was engaged to someone else, that threw everything into chaos. My brief moment of considering forgiveness evaporated, replaced by cold, hard anger and a burning need to uncover the real story. I knew what I had to do. This wasn't just about confronting her lies anymore. This was about peeling back every single layer until I reached the absolute, shocking truth, no matter how painful it might be. The next confrontation wouldn't be about tears and partial confessions. It would be about facts. And I had a feeling the real story behind that ring was going to blow everything I thought I knew completely out of the water. Armed with this new, confusing, and frankly terrifying information, the picture of David engaged to someone else, the credit card charge, the persistent lies, I knew I couldn't just let it go. The partial confession wasn't closure, it was just another layer of deception. I needed the absolute truth, the whole ugly picture. I arranged to meet Sarah. Not at our apartment, the scene of the initial confrontation, but on neutral ground, a quiet corner in a park cafe. I needed clarity, and I needed to stay in control this time. She arrived looking pale and anxious, but she'd clearly tried to pull herself together. She probably thought this was the reconciliation meeting, the let's talk it through session. She started immediately with more apologies, telling me how miserable she'd been, how much she loved me, how she'd do anything to fix this. I let her talk for a few minutes, watching her carefully. The desperation felt real, but the words still rang hollow. When she paused, I didn't raise my voice. I kept it calm, level. "Sarah," I said, looking her straight in the eye. "I know you weren't telling me the whole truth." Her eyes flickered with panic again. "What do you mean? I told you everything." "No, you didn't," I interrupted gently but firmly. "You told me the ring was from David at work. You told me it was over weeks ago. You told me he gave it to you." I paused, letting the weight of the words hang in the air. "So, can you explain why David just got engaged 3 days ago, posting pictures online with his fiancée, who isn't you? And can you explain the charge on our credit card for a significant amount at a high-end jeweler a few weeks back?" The blood completely drained from her face. She looked like she'd been struck. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. There were no more easy lies, no more quick excuses. She was cornered. The carefully constructed narrative she'd built had just been demolished. For a long moment, she just stared down at her hands, trembling. The silence stretched, thick with tension. Then, finally, she looked up, and the look in her eyes was different. Not just fear, but a kind of broken resignation. The fight had gone out of her. "Okay," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Okay, you deserve the truth. The real truth." And then it all came tumbling out. And it was so much worse, so much more twisted than anything I could have imagined. The ring wasn't from David. David was a smokescreen, a convenient colleague she'd thrown under the bus in her initial panic. Yes, there had been flirtation there, maybe even a drunken kiss at that party months ago which she'd used to make her initial lie seem plausible, but he wasn't the source of the ring. The ring she had bought it, with our money, disguised on the credit card statement. My mind reeled. Why? Why would she buy an expensive diamond ring like that? She took a shaky breath. It wasn't for me, Alex." "Then who?" I demanded, my voice rising despite myself. Her eyes filled with fresh tears, but this time they felt different. Not manipulative, but filled with genuine shame and a strange kind of grief. It was for my ex-boyfriend. Mark. Mark? Her ex? The guy she dated before me? The one she always claimed ended amicably, but that she hadn't spoken to in years? My head was spinning. "What are you talking about, Sarah? You told me you hadn't seen him since we got together." "I lied," she whispered. We reconnected about 6 months ago. Just as friends, at first. He was going through a tough time. His mom was sick. She traced patterns on the table with her finger. But then, old feelings resurfaced. It started slowly, coffee, then dinner, then it became more. She had been having an affair. Not with David, but with her ex-boyfriend, Mark. The man she swore was ancient history. The affair had been going on for half a year, right under my nose. All those late nights, working, the sudden need for space, the secretive phone calls, it was all him. And the ring. I choked out, feeling nauseous. Why did you buy him a ring? This was the part that truly broke me. Her voice dropped even lower. He proposed to me, Alex. About 2 months ago. He proposed. Her ex-boyfriend proposed to her while she was still living with me, sleeping in my bed, telling me she loved me. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And you? I couldn't finish the sentence. I said yes, she admitted, the words barely audible. I know it was crazy. I was confused, I was caught up. I thought maybe that was what I really wanted. A fresh start with him. So the ring I found wasn't from him. It was the ring she bought to give back to him when she decided to accept his proposal. But wait, that didn't make sense either. Why would she buy an identical ring? No, she clarified, seeing my confusion, her face crumpling further. He proposed with his family ring. A simple gold band. But I didn't think it was enough. I felt guilty, maybe? I don't know. So I went out and bought that ring. She gestured vaguely, referring to the one I found. Using our money. I was going to swap it. Give him back the expensive one I bought. Keep his family ring. Pretend that was the one he gave me. It was insane, Alex. I know it was insane. I was trying to create this perfect fantasy proposal to justify blowing up my life with you. It was a level of deceit, of messed up logic, that I couldn't even comprehend. She was having an affair with her ex. He proposed. She said yes. And then she bought a different, flashier engagement ring with our money to somehow what? Make the betrayal seem more palatable to herself? But then, she continued, tears streaming freely now. As the reality set in, I started having doubts. Serious doubts. About him. About leaving you. I realized what a colossal mistake I was making. I couldn't go through with it. I loved you, Alex. I know how insane that sounds now, after everything I did, but it's true. So, I called it off with Mark. Just last week. I told him I couldn't marry him, that I'd made a mistake saying yes. He was devastated. Angry. He took his family ring back. And I was left with that ring. The one I bought. I didn't know what to do with it. I couldn't return it easily. I couldn't pawn it without raising questions. I couldn't face you. So I hid it. Hoping I could figure it out later. Hoping you'd never find it. Hoping I could somehow fix the mess I'd made without you ever knowing the whole, sordid truth. I just sat there, stunned into silence. The sheer complexity of the lies, the depth of the betrayal, it was breathtaking. An affair with her ex. A secret engagement. Buying a decoy ring with shared money. It wasn't just infidelity. It was a complete fabrication of reality, a selfish, chaotic mess driven by her own confusion and cowardice. There was no anger left now. Just a vast, empty sense of disillusionment. The Sarah sitting opposite me wasn't the woman I loved. She was a stranger, someone capable of deceit on a scale I couldn't fathom. I'm so sorry, Alex, she whispered, her voice thick with tears. I know sorry isn't enough. I know I've destroyed everything. But please believe me, calling it off with him, choosing you, that was real. I want to fix this. I'll do anything. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw the desperation, the remorse. Maybe part of her did love me, in her own messed up way. But it didn't matter anymore. Trust, once shattered to this extent, couldn't be pieced back together. Not for me. The foundation wasn't just cracked, it had been pulverized. There's nothing to fix, Sarah, I said softly, but with finality. We're done. The words hung in the air. She didn't argue. She didn't plead anymore. She just nodded slowly, tears silently tracing paths down her cheeks. She knew it too. Leaving the cafe that day felt different from the first time I walked out. There was no anger fueling me, no confusion clouding my judgment. Just a profound sadness and a strange sense of clarity. It hurt. God, it hurt like hell. But it was the clean pain of a necessary amputation, not the festering agony of deception. The aftermath wasn't easy. There were logistics, moving out, dividing possessions, the awkward conversations with mutual friends. There were waves of grief, anger, and loneliness. But underneath it all, There was also a growing sense of relief. Relief from the lies, the suspicion, the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong. I never saw Sarah again after that day in the cafe. I heard through the grapevine that she eventually moved out of the city. I don't know if she ever got back with Mark, or what happened with that ridiculously expensive ring she bought. Frankly, I didn't care. My focus shifted to healing, to rebuilding my own life, my own sense of self-worth. It took time, a long time, but eventually, the sharp edges of the pain began to dull. I learned to trust my gut instinct again. I learned that love should feel safe, not like walking through a minefield. And I learned that sometimes, the most empowering thing you can do is walk away from something that is fundamentally broken, even if it tears your heart out to do it. That ring wasn't just a symbol of her betrayal. It became a symbol of my liberation. The moment I uncovered the truth, as shocking and devastating as it was the moment I started to get my life back. And that brings us to the end of today's story. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly hope to see you again for more fascinating tales ahead. If you enjoyed it, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next adventure. See you soon.